Good morning, welcome to this video. Today we will unbox some vegetables. If you haven't seen the last video, I'm Jana, I live in a van, and it took me over 7 years of van life to realize that dehydrated vegetables might be just the right thing for me, as for someone who does not have a fridge, who doesn't have much space, and who lives alone, so I do not eat huge amounts of food. And if you think this situation looks a bit different to usual, then you are right. My camera is broken, so I'm forced to use my phone. I would like to show you how it looks like, but I'm kind of running out of cameras. So this is how it looks like, just a mobile phone on a reverse mirror. Just as well it's fold so that I can actually see myself on the screen, but I have to be very careful to actually look into the camera. So I went online and I bought 36 kilos of vegetables. Actually, they are in their dehydrated form, so that's only 3.8 kilos. And if you think that was a little bit of a clickbait, maybe, but kind of not, because when I rehydrate these veggies, I will get the equivalent of 36 kilos of fresh. So let's have a look inside. Actually, the post office said it's almost 2 kgs heavier than it should be, so I don't know if it's just the packaging or if we scored some freebies. That would be awesome. And so we already said that the dehydrated veg makes a lot of sense for someone who doesn't have a fridge, lives by herself, doesn't have much storage space. But let's have a look if it also makes sense financially. And you might be surprised, I was. So there is our list. The company I have ordered from is called Lasting Harvest, which is a brilliant name if you ask me. And this is not a sponsorship. I paid for the box. They don't even know I exist. I just chose them because they had the largest variety of all kinds of veg. I just wish they had a bit more of green stuff like broccoli or bok choy. Which is what the other company had, but unfortunately they are too difficult to deal with and too expensive. So yeah, we have to make it work with what we got. So first of all, I ordered 1 kg of potato flakes because I'm a Slavic girl. I love my potatoes. I wanna try to make some mashed potato with it. You can buy dehydrated potato mash at the supermarket, but they always have dairy in it, so I'm really happy to have found some without. 1 kilo of dehydrated potatoes is about the equivalent of 5 kg of fresh. I paid for this 1 kilo $14. I asked ChatGPT to help me calculate how much water and solids are in each vegetable, so how much water has been removed, and calculate the equivalent of rehydrated weight to fresh veggies. So this package would come up to 5 kilos of rehydrated potatoes. I paid $14 for this. I went also to the supermarket and I took pictures of all those veggies so that we can compare it to fresh. At the moment, potatoes sell for $4.90. Which means for 5 kilos I would pay $24.50. And I paid $14, so dehydrated potato wins. Of course, you could say, oh, but if you bought a 5 kilo bag or 10 kilo bag, the price would be better. But I want to compare the veggies I would normally buy. And because I don't have the storage, this is what I would normally buy. Just the loose potatoes, the most expensive ones. I got 200 grams of dried mushrooms. So if you rehydrate 200 grams of mushrooms, you will get about 2 kilos of mushrooms. I paid $28. And at the supermarket, 1 kilo of fresh mushrooms is $12.50, which would come up to $25. So here the mushrooms are slightly cheaper at the supermarket. I got half a kilo of pumpkin. That rehydrates to about 5 kilos of fresh pumpkin. I paid $15 for this. At the supermarket, pumpkins are at the moment $3.50 per kilo, so 5 kilos would be $17.50. So the dehydrated pumpkin was slightly cheaper. I got half a kilo of shredded carrots and they come to 4 kilos 17 when rehydrated. I paid $14, but that's only because they didn't have a half kilo package. I had to buy 250 grams. If you buy half a kilo, it costs $11. Fresh carrots are at the moment $2.30 per kilo, which would come to $9.59. So carrots are a little bit cheaper at the supermarket. Ooh, sweet potato. We got 250 grams of sweet potato flakes. That equals about 1.09 kilos of fresh. Wow, there's probably not much water in sweet potato. And I paid $8. At the supermarket, I think sweet potatoes were on special for $3.90 per kilo, which comes to $4.25 for the equivalent. So yes, sweet potatoes are cheaper at the supermarket right now. Oh, wow, how much bloody spinach did I get? Half a kilo spinach. So rehydrated, that would be 5.56 kilos. I paid $22 for this. Now spinach, I looked at frozen, and frozen spinach is $4.36 per kilo, so that would come up to $24.26. And that means the dehydrated spinach is actually slightly cheaper. 250 grams of peas equals 1.14 kilos, and I paid $8. And again, I looked at frozen peas. They are $3.80 per kilo, which would come to $4.33 fresh. So again, frozen peas is a bit cheaper. So I got 250 grams of green capsicum, which rehydrated would come to 3.13 kilos. And I paid for this $11. At the supermarket right now, capsicums are $11.90. So the equivalent would cost me $37.25. So dehydrated capsicum is actually much better. 250 grams of chopped onion, which when you rehydrate that, you get 2.27 kilos of fresh. And I paid $10 for this. At the supermarket, onions sell right now for $2.90 per kilo. So the equivalent would cost $6.58. So again, supermarket wins here. 250 grams of dried leek, they would come to 1 kilo 47 rehydrated, and I paid $10. Leek sells for $4.20 per kilo, so that would come to $6.17 for the same weight, so fresh wins again. Garlic is here to save the day. 250 grams of dry garlic is an equivalent of 0.71 kg of fresh. Now at the supermarket, fresh garlic sells for I think $33, which would cost $23.43 for the same amount. And I paid, oh, I didn't tell you how much I paid. I paid $6. And last but not least, okay, there was no freebies. Tomato. I have 250 grams of dehydrated tomato, and that rehydrated comes to 4.17 kilos. And at the supermarket, tomatoes sell right now for $7.90 per kilo, so that would come up to $32.94. So dehydrated tomato definitely wins. So what is the verdict? We had 12 different sorts of veggies. 6 were cheaper online, 6 were cheaper at the supermarket. Which shopping actually came out cheaper? The biggest savings we've seen with potatoes, garlic, capsicum and tomato. The vegetables themselves cost me $159. Actually, it would have been $156 if they had the half a kilo of carrot rather than 2 smaller packages. And I paid $44 for postage plus tax. So altogether $204.40. And now, drum rolls, how much would it be for the fresh veg? 216.80, and that does not include all the trips to the supermarket, the fact that I often cannot buy the exact amount that I need, so often I end up eating way more than I should, or some of it spoils and I have to throw it away, unfortunately. I did gain peace of mind, flexibility, and the ability to cook a soup, a curry, or mash whenever the hell I want, without planning, without shopping, and with no fridge. Okay, can somebody tell me what am I gonna do with all of this now? Where am I going to put it? Also, what I have noticed in the ingredients is always just the veggies. There's nothing else, no nasties, no preservatives, no chemicals, except there's one exception, and that's the potato. I don't know if they have to add other stuff in there so that it doesn't go bad. So just so you know, potatoes are the only ones that have some added ingredients to it. I actually love doing this comparison. I always loved math at school, and this just felt like a real life experiment. And maybe like me, you just discovered a whole new world today. Let me know in the comments if you have any other shelf-stable hacks for van life, and please, I do not look for recommendation on fridges. I have looked into it, trust me, especially because of tiramisu. I really miss the tiramisu so bad that I would get a fridge. But they are all power-hungry beasts that I do not want to be feeding. Okay, now I need to find some container because I would like to make a mixture for my curries and then put the rest of the veg somewhere else into storage. So that's gonna be a bit of a problem. I think this could do the job. I just have to remove the stuff that's in it. Oh, some spare cinnamon. You can have never enough of cinnamon. And corn flour. Also, I have to ask ChatGPT. He gave me weight in grams, like ratios of all sorts of veggies for a good curry mix. But I don't have a scale, so he has to recalculate it for maybe spoons or cups or some other measuring system. Okay, ChatGPT gave us a list. I have a box, I have a cup and a spoon. And let's see what we can do. 1.5 cups of dried onion. Ah! 1 cup of carrot. I was actually quite surprised that carrot contains so much water when it's actually quite hard. Okay, that's it. Woo! 1 cup sweet potato. Half cup of pumpkin. Just a little bit more. Half cup of capsicum. Tomato. 3/4 cup. 1 cup of spinach. Half cup of mushrooms. Ugh! Very dusty. Garlic. 3 tablespoons. One. And 2 tablespoons of leek. I don't know why so little. I bought the leek mainly because there's so little of green veg and I wanted something green. So maybe I'll put some extra. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I intentionally didn't ask him to fill the whole container because I want to be able to mix it through properly. My curry mixture, soup mixture, whatever mixture. I can't wait to cook with it, maybe today. Today we have to do our very favorite job, go to the dump station. I think Leanne has to go too. And so we might even meet there. Just had a bit of a scare. I plugged in the solar panel and nothing. It wasn't giving any power. I was like, oh my god, no. I don't want to buy another one. But it works now. And now I'm going to try the veggies. I'm gonna make another curry, of course. Today we have Thai masaman. I'm gonna put in some peas. Potatoes are already in there. And ChatGPT tells me I should use 3/4 of a cup of this mixture. I think that's enough. Boiling water. I do have a table before you complain in the comments. I'm just too lazy to get it out. That looks really nice, doesn't it? I have to wash my spoon, so I only have the small one left. It's good, but still the Balinese is my favorite. Thanks for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!